Hello and welcome back to another video. In this episode I'm going to be discussing with you my recent visit to Nottingham and how I captured street portraits of complete strangers. Okay, so any of you that have watched the previous videos, you'll kind of know the format of this video. I'm going to be talking about some of the images that I captured, my experiences of going to Nottingham and photographing people on the street, and also I'm going to be looking at what I did, why I did it, and how I might change shots in the future. If you haven't seen the videos that I've already put out, then make sure you go and watch those now. They will be up there in a cue card, so go check those out and then come back and watch this video. If you enjoy this series, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. Feel free to drop me a comment and give me your thoughts on some of the images. But enough of the intro, let's start talking about my experiences. Okay, so I found the process of Nottingham, or photographing people in Nottingham, really enjoyable. I have a connection to Nottingham already, as I started my MA at Nottingham Trent University, and I've done a couple of street portraits in the city centre previously back in 2017, and that was kind of what sparked the interest in doing street portraits. So I felt really relaxed and comfortable sort of navigating the streets, and it's quite a friendly, welcoming city anyway, so it was just like straight off the bat I was in, and people were saying yes, and people were friendly and approachable, so the whole process was quite enjoyable as a whole. And I'm starting to feel that I'm getting into the swing of things now, and there's not a lot that needs to be tweaked in terms of actually taking the pictures. I do need to be aware of my composition and stuff, and keep the mindset of I'm shooting for a competition when I'm taking the pictures. I recently went to Leicester, and when I've come back and looked at some of the images, I feel like I've kind of let that slip, that focus slip. But we're not talking about that. If you're interested in my visit to Leicester, then subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications of when I upload that video. So let's start on the first image. Okay, this is portrait number 1 from Nottingham. This is Ellen. So Ellen was the first person I approached, and fortunately for me, the first person to say yes. The reason I approached Ellen was this kind of wild lion's mane hair. Also, she was sat down chilling on this sea, and there was this visual contrast of the colours, the red and green. Kind of has a slight Christmassy vibe to it, but I don't think it's too in your face, and I don't think that overpowers the image, so I'm quite happy with this. And I think this was shot at f2.8. I'm unsure, probably ISO 100, and I'm unsure of the shutter speed, but I'm keeping that low aperture to try and get that really nice creamy blurred background. I could have asked Ellen to move to create, more distance between the background, or check a different, or choose a different background completely, but I didn't. I was just kind of like in and out as quickly as possible. And to be honest, I kind of like the green in the background. I feel like it's framing Ellen somewhat, and there is that contrast between the red and the green, so I'm happy that I didn't ask Ellen to move. And overall I'm quite happy with this shot. I think this is a very strong start. Portrait number 2. This is Bridget. I mean, as you can see, Bridget is very eye-catching. Older woman, lots of tattoos, bright red hair, and this really bright, vibrant shirt as well. So this was probably 10-15 minutes after I'd photographed Ellen. I decided to move location and try and find a different background, and I saw Bridget walking towards me down an alleyway, and we all know by now that I am big fans of alleyways and the leading lines they create. So I approached Bridget, she said yes, Got lots of great portraits of Bridget, but this is the one that I've decided to roll with. The reason being, I think the facial expression is really friendly, approachable and quite warm. You've also got the shadows that are coming in from the corners and pulling the focus to the subject's face as well. So overall, a really strong composition. I really like the colour, and another one that I'm really happy with. Portrait number 3, this is P and J. These guys are in the same alleyway that I photographed Bridget. I thought they'd be an interesting contrast to the kind of vibrant energy that Bridget was giving off, and I'm trying to include as many kinds of people as I can. So I approached P and J and they said yes. They're both artists, not on social media, so I can't tag them, but they were absolutely great. We had a really nice chat about the arts and learning the arts and different art schools and experiences that they'd had as well. In terms of what I would change about this shot, I think if I could, I would have spent more time with them, talking to them before I took their picture, just to kind of break them down a little bit and make them comfortable with me as an individual and with the whole process of being photographed. You can see there's an awkward energy in the image, and yeah, I think that kind of just deflates it a little bit. I actually preferred the 3:2 aspect ratio, but I've cropped it down to a 10:8 because most of the, well, pretty much all of the images that I've shot, I've cropped to a 10:8 so that they can be published on Instagram. I think has affected the image slightly. I'm not over the moon with this one. I think I have better images, and I think just by taking that little bit of extra time to communicate with them, make them feel more relaxed, I could have had a better image. So that's definitely something I need to be aware of as I continue on. Portrait number 4, this is Daniel. Daniel was sat chilling out by the, I can't remember the name of the building, but one of the buildings from the NTU, and I specifically wanted to take a shot on this street because it was kind of reminiscent for me. So I approached Daniel. Daniel wasn't overly keen to start off with, and I had to kind of convince him and talk him into having his picture taken. This is one of the later ones I took, as I've now started taking full-length portraits, 3/4 and then a head and shoulders. The full-length shots, Daniel was very sort of strong and masculine in his pose, and with men, when you tend to photograph them, you'll notice that the chest comes out, the chin's up, and they're in this very sort of masculine pose. So I just told him to take a breath and like kind of relax and just be present rather than pose for the camera. And I spent just that little bit more time kind of giving a tiny bit of direction because I didn't want that overly masculine, almost confrontational pose, and I just wanted to have the personality, and I think that's come through in this shot. I really like the background elements and how they're making Daniel stand out, so quite happy with this shot. Portrait number 5, this is Joseph. Joseph was walking down the street with the subject of portrait number 6. I took a picture of them together as a couple and then photographed them individually. This, being able to do that, gave me that little bit more time to talk to them and stuff, which I think was pretty good. These guys were awesome. Again, a little bit awkward in front of the camera, but then they are being photographed by a complete stranger. I could have spent more time photographing them, more time talking to them to just ease them into it. And it's something I'm very hit and miss with because I'm not always completely present, or I'm not always completely critical in my approach. I am sometimes in the moment of just taking the pictures rather than photographing with an intention, I think, and that's probably, as I've said, something I need to be aware of and work on going forward. So in terms of this shot, it was Joseph's red hair that kind of captured my attention when they were both walking towards me. I had this grey background and he was wearing a very sort of plain top, so I thought it would make the colour of his hair pop just that little bit more and make it a little bit more vibrant and stand out. In the edit in these, I have desaturated it slightly. It has a bit more of a grungy sort of edit to it, which I kind of like, but I may, before the competition submission date, I may go back and re-edit this and just tweak it a little bit more, as I think I've desaturated it just a little bit too much. Okay, portrait number 6, this is Taylor. This is Joseph's other half. As I said, I photographed them as a couple and photographed them separately. I decided to go with the separate portraits, as although neither of them look particularly comfortable in their standalone portraits, they looked very uncomfortable in the combined shot, because they were the first ones that I took, so they were initially very awkward and very uncomfortable, and by the time that I'd photographed them on their own, they'd eased into it a little bit more. So that's why I've gone with the separate portraits rather than the one of both of them together. Quite like this shot. It has almost like a mono feel to it. Taylor stands out from the background, but it's just there's something about it. It has something that makes it pop. There is almost, from the way that the hair's falling, there's almost like a triangular composition being generated, even though it's not a deliberate one. So I quite like this. I have stronger images, but I do quite like this shot. Okay, portrait number 7. Again, I'm going to have to apologise if I mispronounce names, but I think this is Eliza. And you can probably tell why I photographed Eliza. She's very, very bright, very, very saturated, very, very eye-catching, and I thought against the background of the shop units that are behind, she would really, really pop out. And she's got this rainbow outfit on, really, really, saturated colours, and this bright face mask as well. So that really is eye-catching and just forces her to stand out from the background. So yeah, this a great shot. I think it works really well. I'm very pleased with it. Portrait number 8. PCSO Chelsea. This is probably one of the most difficult ones for me to approach. I felt very uncomfortable approaching a PCSO because they are working, and they have quite an important job to do, and I just thought I would get shot down. But rather than miss the opportunity and regret it, I just thought to myself, the worst that can happen is they can say no. So I approached. Chelsea was more than happy to have her picture taken. I did also ask her colleague, but he was less inclined to let me take his picture, even though I tried twisting his arm multiple times. Slightly brighter edit to this image, a lot more going on in the background, but I think this shot stands out against everything else as quite a strong portrait. It's obviously taken in the street, in the middle of the day, and all of that background noise, I think, adds to that and keeps the eye travelling around the image. There's one thing that I would change, and I might just have changed the angle of the shot ever so slightly so that shop sign isn't right by the side of Chelsea's head, and I might have just taken half a step to the left if I'd been aware of it at that moment in time, and just put the shop sign behind Chelsea's head, and it wouldn't be there, and it wouldn't be that distracting element. Okay, portrait number 9 is of Davis. Davis, as you can see, is a delivery courier. He was sort of poodling along on his bike when I stopped him, just on the off chance, and he said he had a couple of minutes to spare to let me take this picture. I had found this sort of shopping arcade or alleyway, and I was stood waiting for somebody that was interesting so that I could photograph them in this spot, because I think it just makes the perfect frame for a shot. So there were 2 that I was stuck with, and I asked a couple of friends and colleagues what their preferences were, and then I kind of settled on this one after taking advice from lots of people. There's a really, really strong triangular composition that's created by the subject's face, the front wheel of the bike, and then the courier bag as well. And I just absolutely love it. You've got the 3, because you've got you've got your bike, you've got your subject, you've got the bag, and they're all positioned. You just kind of put it down, and it made this perfect little triangle, which I think just reinforces the strength of the composition. It adds to the leading lines created by the alleyway. You've got these spotlights in the background that add visual interest, and there's a lot going on to keep the eye busy, and I think it's a great shot. I have got another shot where it's just a close-up of Davis and his dreads. and I like it. I think it's a great portrait, but in efforts to keep it down to one, I had to go with this one with the bike included, as I think it's just way stronger. Okay, portrait number 10 is Susan. Susan was the last person that I spoke to. I'd been shot down by a couple of people. My confidence was getting a little bit low, and the weather was starting to turn, so I thought I'd get one more shot and then I'd go home, and I had the pleasure of photographing Susan, who was full of energy and personality, and was an absolutely fantastic subject to photograph. We probably spoke for about 5-10 minutes whilst I was taking pictures, and I got a whole range of different sort of facial expressions and interactions with the camera. Unfortunately, some of the strongest shots that I had in terms of facial expression and composition were just ever so fractionally out of focus, which, you know, is a problem with 2.8. It had focused on the beak of Susan's cap, which meant that the face was out of focus and too soft. So probably one of my favourite shots I'm not able to use for a competition because just technically it's not correct and the focus is in the wrong place. But this shot I think is a strong shot. You've got those leading lines created by the building again. You know, I'm very reliant on those leading lines. I am aware of the tree poking out of Susan's head. I could have come down and photographed up a little bit just to you know, change the perspective of the background and hidden that behind Susan's head. It would have given her more power and presence in the image, but again, I was kind of just in the moment, not thinking critically, not building the image as much as recording the moment. So again, that's something I will have to work on. Okay, so that's all of the portraits. Some really strong ones, some not so much. I think my top 3-4 would be PCSO Chelsea, Davis, Eliza, and Daniel. I think they're probably the strongest out of all of them, but I really enjoyed the whole experience. Nottingham is a wonderful city. The people are really friendly, and it's absolutely amazing. If you've never been, go check it out. Okay, so if you stuck around for this video, thank you very much. If you enjoyed it, make sure that you smash that like button. If you haven't, then give it a thumbs down. I'm a big boy, I can take it. The next video you will get to see is of my trip to Leicester. I took a GoPro and did a little bit of vlogging, so it should be a little bit more interesting than just my face in this room talking to you about my images. So I hope you enjoy that. Make sure you do watch it when it drops. Would like to thank everybody for watching, everybody that's been a part of this project, and everybody that's supported me so far. You're all absolutely fantastic. I couldn't have done it without any of you. Really enjoying it. I hope to continue on with the project past the submission date for the Portrait of Britain Awards and for the foreseeable future. So see you in the next video, guys. Bye.